interesting that we're having problems with scheduling of Hanok Young. Yes, that's true. It's Tuesday, and we've got to schedule because Hanok, you're working. What is this?
Okay, well, it's tomorrow is Wednesday, is only 2 tours in the Coattail tunnels. Folks, we're not talking about big bucks. Talking about like delivery boy wages. But after 2 years and lots of debt, hey, you take what you can get when you can get it.
Yeah, yeah. So you're going to be kind of doing as much tomorrow as you did for like over a year.
In like a year and a half.
Yeah, yeah. That's sad. That's sad. So,
Agreed.
But you're back on the list with the Coattail Tunnel, and you've got your new guiding experience here, and all's good.
Well, we're moving along. There's an expression in Hebrew, kol hatchalot kashot. All beginnings are difficult.
Yes.
And the question is always, wait a second, why is beginnings in plural? Shouldn't you be beginning something once? And the moral of the story is you find yourself in life many times beginning the same thing over again. So like all tour guides, or most of us, those still in the profession, we are rebuilding, restarting our businesses.
Yeah.
So Tourist Israel doesn't have anywhere near the level of business that they had even at the beginning of 2019 when they first started. So it's a matter of taking what you can and building on it.
Yeah.
Again, down the road in 2023, I've got groups that are expressing an interest. I've got people saying, hey, I'm thinking of coming in the fall. Hey, I'm thinking of coming here. I'm coming there. A group yesterday called me from South Africa, a group that I'd guided previously. And they were thinking of coming in May, but they wanted some guarantee about, testing procedures. No one can give any guarantee now.
No.
So I suggested they wait, for the fall or the beginning of the winter, which they seem to be doing anyway. So there's potential. I mean, Pesach is over. So the American Jews have gone back to their country and left. I thought that was subtle, wasn't it?
I just barely caught it. Barely caught it.
Not only did we have Easter, we had the Orthodox Easter as well. So, lots of days, lots of people visiting. It was just, hopefully we're beginning. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
In my mind, I've compiled a list of friends, associates, and supporters of mine. And it's a long list of people who swore to me that they'd be coming to Israel. Now, I know people can't just drop things and come.
Yeah.
Hey, they could sign up for our Connect experience and come at the end of October. And it's as you say, it's crickets.
Yeah.
Hello? Anybody there?
I tell you what, knowing the people that we have that are signed up for the tour, I'm extremely happy because we've got some amazing people going to be there. And so we're looking forward to that one. Okay, so I guess the big news on my part, what I'm seeing is that Temple Mount is closed to all Jews. Is that was there any spin on that news or what?
Yeah. And this is a really important thing. The people who are in Likud or Likud supporters, Netanyahu supporters, are going crazy. But let me tell you something. This happens every year, the last week of Ramadan. All 12 years that Netanyahu was prime minister, the last week of Ramadan, they close the Temple Mount to non-Muslims. Wow. This happens all the time. This is not new. This is not new. It has to do also with the need, if you will, to decrease tensions. See, there's a thing going around, well, there's a thing called the status quo. I'll quote Netanyahu, the only time I'll quote him, because he was succinct about this. Back in 2015, he made this statement regarding the status quo of the Temple Mount is Muslims pray there, other religions visit. And
Wow.
that's what it's been. That's been the status quo.
I never heard it like that, but I mean, that's true.
It's totally true. And it's the only thing he was A, ever succinct about, and B, actually illuminated things. The problem is the status quo. The status quo of what is supposed to go on the Temple Mount has never been written down. Israel left the Islamic Waqf, the Muslim Religious Council, in charge of the day-to-day activities on the Temple Mount.
Yeah.
So they're the ones that will say a woman's got to cover her ankles. They're the ones to say that couple has to stop holding hands, etc. We've had a little bit of a run-in with them.
Yeah, a couple of times it was more than just a little bit of a run-in, but
yeah. Now the thing is, the status quo means that Jews and or Christians are not allowed to pray publicly. You cannot bring up a Bible. You cannot be outwardly wearing a religious or, like you can't have an Israeli flag draped around you. I will tell this to some of the younger people coming on our tour. That's not the day to wear your IDF t-shirt.
Yeah.
Going up to the Temple Mount.
Yeah.
Okay, no, people don't realize this.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Now, in the mind of the Muslims, we Jews have no rights whatsoever on the Temple Mount. Means we can't even visit. Now, here's the issue. Pesach, in previous years, we've had over 2,000 Jews ascend the Temple Mount during the special, Jew time. When non-Muslims. Now, again, remember, the police are there filming us. It's a really unpleasant experience.
Oh yeah.
This year there were over 4,000. So in the Muslim mind, that's breaking the status quo, which makes absolutely no sense. They repeatedly keep saying the Jews are storming Al-Aqsa. Again, they refer to the entire Temple Mount as Al-Aqsa. The Muslim world goes crazy. Now you see a couple of rockets fired from Gaza. That's Islamic Jihad. For a variety of reasons, Hamas doesn't want to go to war with us right now. But it's in their interest to keep things simmering, because eventually Mahmoud Abbas at 80 some odd years old will die, and Hamas will win elections in Judea and Samaria, in the areas controlled by the so-called Palestinian Authority, as soon as there are free elections. They kicked them out of Gaza years ago. But anyway, so this is what's going on. Now, of course, King Abdullah, the little dumb dwarf who, is the king of Jordan, goes and stokes the fires of this, because it's in his interest, he's the custodian of Al-Aqsa, the whole thing. Listen, we could take the entire country of Jordan in 3.5 days if we wanted. We just wouldn't know what to do with all the people that live there. So we're not going to do that. But it's a complicated issue. So we're trying to keep things on the down low. Israel, meanwhile, continues its operations throughout Judea and Samaria, rooting out terrorist cells. The police presence is higher than anything I've ever seen.
Wow.
Now, last week, we spoke about it a bit. There was a really bad day. There were stoning buses going to the Kotel, and I was supposed to guide a group all day in Jerusalem. That's my hangout with Hanoch for 9.5 hours day. And yeah, I know. It's only people like you, Mike, that are thinking, Lord have mercy on their souls. I
Yeah.
know, I know, I know.
I'm just
Actually,
trying to think of which aisle of the drugstore you'd have to go to get the medication for that.
well, the good news is I don't need any medication
Yeah.
as long as they're not modern Orthodox American Jews.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, and then put in parentheses, practitioners of Jewish folklore. But anyway,
Okay.
we're not gonna go there. We could do an entire show ragging on American
Yeah.
Jews. It's so not worth it. So not worth it. The good news is the security situation is good, getting better by the day. I just remain a bit perplexed as to why more of the people that I know or we know in common, and I'm not talking about general Hebrew roots people, but people we know, that we've been given the impression by them that they believe what we believe regarding Israel. I don't see them coming. I don't see, they're not making plans.
Yeah, I think that with all the, the whole world right now is in upheaval. And for most people, it's just difficult for them to make a decision on anything. I mean, I'm having a difficult time enough myself just dealing with dates and trying to figure out the possibility of being over there next month. My schedule is a little bit more flexible than many people, but it's a crazy time of life, and yeah, I mean, we've used that for the last 2.5 years, yes, but it's where we're at now is totally different than what the last 2.5 years have been. There's so many other things regarding economy and all these and all this, but somehow in the midst of that, continuing to keep focus upon the land, the people of Israel, is something that it's something. If you got to work on it, work on it. Okay, it's just the way it is. So the Temple Mount, do you think will be open right after Ramadan? Is
Yeah,
that the typical thing that happens?
yeah, yeah. The announcement is closed until further notice. And then Ramadan comes and goes. And because again, what Israel is trying to avoid is what happened last year,
Mm-hmm.
2021. Riots in Jerusalem, riots, the Jews are storming Al-Aqsa, and then all of a sudden the missiles start flying from Gaza. So, that's one thing. And in terms of what's going on in the world, my words of wisdom to everyone is there'll always be something going on, boys and girls.
Yeah.
And I think back to when Trump announced his peace plan, you and I speak about this very often. Two people that had deposits in for Connect to Israel said, we're not going because there obviously will be upheaval in the land. Mm-hmm. There wasn't.
No.
And those people have never come back. So, listen, it kind of is what it is. And I'm really at the stage to wash my hands of this whole thing.
Yeah, I've been over there. I mean, I've been there in the time of upheaval. I've been there in the time of relative peace. But being there is special. It's in those times of upheaval that you're really appreciated. And those are times that you've seen in our tours that it's just what I see today when I walk into a store, when I see people that I know. I mean, the thing about Israelis, they never forget. They never forget the people that stand with them during times of crisis. It's just
it's very true. It's
part
very
of your
true.
DNA. What's different subject here regarding Ukraine? Again, for America, Ukraine is kind of being pushed to the side we're coming into the political season here that's going to last an eternity. Elon Musk buying Twitter for multiple billions of dollars. That's all the things that are pushing the news. what are you seeing as far as
Okay.
how does Ukraine tie
Okay.
into what's going on with you or with
A
Israel
couple of
today?
things. Um, Increased immigration of Jews from Ukraine.
Yeah,
In Let me try this in English. Increased immigration of Jews from Russia. Very interesting.
yeah,
And without going into the nuances of political infighting here in Israel, it's clear that Zelensky of Ukraine, his plea to Naftali Bennett to get involved and try to mediate between Russia and Ukraine was a huge, huge political mistake
hmm,
for Bennett here.
hmm,
Because while he's off trying to help people around the world, people within the coalition and within the opposition, Netanyahu, etc., are now politics in Israel is far more serious or taken more seriously than politics in the US.
oh,
It is a contact sport here.
yeah,
It is really, really ugly.
hmm,
So that was a political mistake that Bennett made, and he seems to have recognized it. Um, it's really kind of scary that the Russians are again saying, like, hey, nuclear war is not off the table. Now, I think we're somewhere around 54 days since the invasion that everyone thought would take about a week.
yeah,
Um, so it's pretty disconcerting. It's also easy to see how the world will, could potentially spin out of control. But life goes on here in Israel, and that's the
mhm.
most amazing thing.
Oh yeah,
And there are so many people that I speak to who tell me that Israel's been on their bucket list their whole life,
hmm,
and when they're in their sixth or seventh decade of life and they've traveled elsewhere in the world, I basically say, what the hell were you waiting for?
yeah. It's something. You're talking about the resiliency of the Israelis. I mean, I still remember I was on an interview this past week with someone down in Florida, and they said, why have you been to Israel 29 times? And it was a very very innocent question. He's looking for my insights into there, and it allowed me to kind of reminisce a little bit of the times during the Oslo War, the so-called Intifada,
Yeah.
um, the resilience, the tenacity of the Israeli people to just hang in there no matter what's going on around them. It is a survivor attitude. Now, with that survivor attitude, I saw a headline that the worldwide population of Jews is back up to right at the pre-Shoah, the pre-Holocaust numbers.
No, no,
No, did I read that
it's
wrong?
yes, no, it's a misrepresentation.
Okay,
It's approximately 15 million Jews in the world.
okay,
September 1st, 1939, there were 18 million Jews in the world.
okay.
So we've gone from 14, we were 14 for a very long time,
Hmm.
even with the amazing birth rate here in Israel, the highest in the entire developed world. But worldwide, we're only at 15.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't take into account another interesting article that popped up today, how 28% of American Jews under age 40 are trying to hide the fact that they were born Jewish because of all the anti-Israel sentiment.
Hmm.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Mm.
So yeah, but again, y'all keep starting me off on American Jews,
Yeah.
and it's
Well,
getting me real upset,
um,
real upset.
yeah. Let me try to keep you off that track, um, if I possibly can. When we talk about Russian Jews, do you have
Yes.
a number of how many how many Jews are still in Russia?
Off the top of my head, I would guess 300,000. But
Okay.
now that's from 3 million. When we used to demonstrate on behalf of Soviet Jews, there were 3 million Soviet Jews.
Hmm.
At that time, we had 1.5 million to 2 million. Well, Israel, let's say up until 1990, we were about 3.5 million. And at the time, there were about 5 million American Jews, and there were
Okay.
3 million Jews in the former Soviet Union. But while we're talking, I'm gonna ask Dr. Google, um, how many roads? Okay, that's no different song. How many Jews in Russia?
Folks, is a full-time job keeping him on track. You know that. You know that.
Ooh, as of 2021, 150,000.
Oh, okay. So here's the obvious question, Halok, and
Yes.
we'll go to Dr. Halok on this one instead of Dr. Google, who would not know how to answer this question. What keeps 150,000 Jews in Russia?
Okay. First of all, the first question, and you can compare this with American Jews, is simply because they're Jewish, why would they have any interest whatsoever to live in Israel? Now, there are a number of Russian Jewish businessmen that have done very well,
Okay.
associates of Putin, etc. We are a tiny fish in the sea. We're a small country. Russia's big with a lot of gazillions of dollars and rubles and stuff floating around. So basically, everyone who was committedly Jewish got out in the 90s. Now, it is true, Chabad has grown in Russia. There are Jews who are actually observant Jews in Russia. I mean, and now, as I think I mentioned on a previous broadcast, they can't get rid of their assets. They can't come. Now, the
Okay.
other thing is, people reach a certain point in life where
Yeah.
they can't restart themselves.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. It would be very difficult,
difficult.
I'm sure. And you bring up Chabad, which I think Chabad is a interesting group of people. Love to hang out, kind of watch them from the distance a little bit. They're like they're like the Jewish charismatics in a lot of ways. But
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, but the fascinating thing to me about Chabad is that they don't see Israel as to modern day Israel as something that's of importance for the most part.
Well, it's interesting. They're not anti-Zionist.
Yeah.
They're more, I would say, kind of apolitical. And I say that as opposed to non-Zionist. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, while he was alive, was a big supporter of Israel and not, surrendering land for pieces of paper, alleged peace. But yeah, that's not their focus. And again, it's interesting. One of the things I was thinking of today, I bumped into our pal Moshe Kapinski,
Ah,
and I remember one of the things that he mentions very often to our groups, and we've brought groups there now for a long time. Wow. Um, he talks about people recognizing that we're living in a world where God is on the move.
yeah.
And if you miss that point, like if you spend all your time wondering about what was it that Biden said in his last speech, or can you believe what the prices are at the gas pumps kind of thing, I mean, really, you're missing the big picture.
Well,
You're
to me
out of
to me the whole idea of Chabad is very similar to an attitude that comes up in many Christian circles and in Hebrew root circles of Well, when Mashiach comes, then he'll kind of straighten it all out, and then Israel will be important.
Now, the thing that's fascinating about that, I'm really glad you mentioned that, is there is a total misconception among many people that Mashiach, the Messiah, will be like Aladdin or a genie, and people will be magically whisked to Israel. This is something Rav Kahana taught us from the Rambam back in 1976.
Wow.
He said, understand, when Mashiach comes, the Egged buses will still run in the street. People will still go to work, but there won't be war. The world will be at peace. The temple will be rebuilt. It's on and on and on. We don't have time now to go into it, but people are waiting to be. It's the classic. And again, in the Hebrew roots world, I hear they expect to be sitting up in the clouds.
Yeah.
No one's going to be working. I don't get it.
Yeah, I've always thought, I mean, going back to, again, the time of the Oslo Wars, that was really the formation of Israel in me. I went there in 98, I was there in 99, but it was really during that Intifada time that I went to a whole new level of understanding of Israel, of the people, of the land. And during that time, I saw, the security guards. I mean, this was so foreign to me. In that day, we never thought of something like this, But in that day, we would have, security guards that would check you, and if you have a backpack on, they're going to look through it, and they're looking at me, going, "You have a gun?" That's no, they won't let me. It was a whole difference of lifestyle. And I started thinking even back then, what could Israel, the people of Israel, do in benefit to this world if it were not for the budget of security?
That is a sort of deal breaker. I mean, and when we read of the concept of Israel being an Or Lagoyim, a light to the nations, it's not just simply teaching great Torah classes.
Oh yeah.
It's a sense of being able to offer to the world everything that we do, because we are a technological marvel. We've done such amazing things, compare us to any other country in the world, and it defies rational explanation. And it's only because Hashem is on the move.
Yeah.
That's it.
Being with Kempinski one day, and someone asked him about the scriptures. I just taught about this the other day. The scriptures of Yirmiyahu, you might pronounce it as Jeremiah, in Jeremiah 23, of what's called the Greater Exodus. And I had been, taught about this, that it was going to be, the greater signs and wonders and miraculous and all these things. And Moshe just kind of took it down a level. But in taking it down a level, he actually brought greater meaning to it when he said that those verses of Yirmiyahu 23 are this, that there's going to come a time in which I'm no longer going to be known as the Elohim, the God of the past.
Exactly.
But I'm going to be known as the Elohim. It's the verse that you and I spoke of 2.5 years sitting right here in my office. It is time for you to arise, O Yah. It is time for you to act. It is time for him to come. It's like he's been sitting back watching, and it's time for him to come onto the stage.
We are, without a doubt, the most blessed generation in history.
Yeah.
Certainly in the modern world. And I just wish that more people could appreciate it and adjust their life and lifestyle accordingly.
Well, When you wish upon a star.
I was just thinking, if you wish upon a star.
I
La, da.
know.
You know what's funny? Being back in the Kotel tunnels, first of all, it's shocking after 3 years of not having been in there to instantly have the same jokes come back and forth, even even making fun of the Americans not understanding the metric system. You know, the Western Wall is 488 meters long, and they're like, and then you say they'll get to then I say half a kilometer, 5 American football fields, and they're like, oh, dude. Yeah. But it's wild. Anyway, I was back in Beit Lechem yesterday at the Church of the Nativity, so I sent your regards. And I actually I had stepped away from the group, and then as I was coming back, the local guy didn't realize I was there, and as he was explaining to them that all the Arab peoples are the descendants of the Canaanites. Which, by the way, that's a standard Palestinian Authority Hamas nonsense, because if they were the Canaanites, they were the original inhabitants of the land. So you know what? And this is a difference in Mr. Hanoch, boys and girls. Normally, I just would have gone and decked him and laid him out. But instead, I used this weapon, the phone. And I contacted the person that coordinates the tours in Beit Lechem, in Bethlehem, and I explained that what he said, and I gave other examples, and that he can never guide one of our groups with Tourist Israel again.
Wow.
Bam, man. In your face. Yeah.
Anybody that's wondering if there are miracles still happening in the world,
one day I will catch this guy on our side of the border fence.
I got that. How many times have you been into the Church of the Nativity? Any idea?
I actually have stopped going in because, you know, I don't know if okay, just for our listeners who've never been to the Church of the Nativity, for a lot of reasons, the entrance is lowered. So you have to bow to go in. That's a sign of humility. And of course, then there are people like me that walk in backwards. That's really not appreciated. So I've probably been in there at least 15 times.
Okay.
And you know, it's not an experience I enjoy. I like the Church of the Holy Sepulchre much better.
Yeah, well, you've been into the Church of the Nativity 15 times more than I have, because I've never even seen it. I've never been in Bethlehem proper. We never have gone there.
Just as well.
I have no desire to be there either. So, yeah. You know. All right. Well, hey, enjoy all this great guiding stuff that you're getting. Get some good experience, because we'll be trying to get that. We don't want to get over there in November and have a rusty Hanoch.
No. And you know, and I know we have a very critical kind of group of people participating, you know, and I know that Marky Connor in particular is going to be, kind of zoning in specifically on what I say. And by the way, you mentioned Jeremiah and pronouncing Jeremiah. Of course, there's a Jeremiah Connor too. Just saying, they're all over the place. Seriously. They're all over the place.
Oh, if anybody actually got the joke there, it would be something. All right.
Yeah. See you guys.
Yeah, man. Take care.
Bye-bye.